Come on. Who doesn't like a good pun? Ham on a R-O-L-E. Ham on a roll. Is the only way to talk about those times when you've been asked to play an outrageous character and you want to ham it up. I wonder where that name comes from. Ham it up. If you know, please let me know. In any case, we'll take a look at how to approach and play a personality that is over the top, outrageous, and goofy on this episode of Casting Actors Cast, the podcast for actors from a casting director.
It's time for another episode of Casting Actors Cast. Here he is, your host, Jeffrey Dreisbach.
Well, hello and welcome to today's episode of Casting Actors Cast. I'm casting director Jeffrey Dreisbach with McCorkle Casting in New York. How are you? Hope you're having a good day. This is kind of a fun episode, I think. At least I hope it is. Talking about ham on a roll. When you have to sort of ham it up a little bit. And we're going to talk about the ways to approach and a thought process that you might not have thought of as you kind of dive into playing outrageous characters. But first, this is that moment of the podcast where I get to say thank you so much for tuning into Casting Actors Cast. Hey, listen, I've gotten so many nice responses from the 75,000 downloads of the podcast. So I'm just excited to continue on with this. As long as there are people that are letting me know that they're enjoying the podcast and getting something out of it, I'm going to continue to do it. The way that you can do that, by the way, is to go to the website, castingactorscast, all one word, .com. And there you're going to find all kinds of interesting information, not only about the podcast, but if you fill out that form that says dive into the talent pool, that's going to open up some freebies. Those freebies are a 20-minute video called Casting Secrets, What They Don't Tell You. It's really a fun video. You can also get a free book on doing voiceover work called Conversation Pieces Out of the Studio, the voiceover workshop for professional actors. And then after that, you can also download 21 of the top episodes of Casting Actors Cast. Those are the show notes. We have the individual show notes corresponding to all of the individual shows called Jeff's Jots. But then I put a whole bunch of Jeff's Jots together representing the top, most popular shows of the series, of the podcast. So you're welcome to that as well. All just absolutely free of charge. So do check that out. If you want to get a hold of me by email, if you want to send a self-tape, for example, and want me to evaluate that live on the air, I am absolutely happy to do that. All you need to do is go to castingactorscast@gmail.com. And again, I want to just give my shout out to my good friends at Actors Connection. Please check out actorsconnection.com/New York. You're going to find online classes with professionals currently working in the industry. So you can do workshops, seminars, just all kinds of really cool programming that might really spark some interest and really get you some opportunities to meet and work with some of these professionals. That's actorsconnection.com/New York. So thank you for all of that. So let's dive into this. I think it's important that if you're being cast and the character you're being asked to audition for or the character you're being asked to play is a little more on the outrageous side. In other words, is a little more outside of who you are than you're comfortable with, then I've got some answers for you. And first and foremost, of course, is to embrace how much fun this could possibly be, rather than freaking out about an outrageous character that you have to play. Why not think of it in slightly different terms? So I have a few suggestions for you. And the first suggestion I have is you just need to start by making some decisions, and making some decisions about the following. Are you an introvert or an extrovert? Why is that important? Well, if you consider yourself an introverted person, then chances are you're going to feel that it is a further reach to go into this kind of outrageous kind of character choices. On the other hand, an introverted person might feel like this is just the ticket to get them out of themselves a little bit. So answering the questions, are you an introvert or an extrovert? Now, it's also not true that extroverts automatically can go to that kind of outrageous character choice. But you know what? I kind of think just logic sort of dictates that those are the folks who have an easier time of going to that kind of more outlandish portrayal of a character. Here's the next thing you want to ask yourself. What characteristics do you feel is both outrageous and at the same time truthful? See, it's one thing to adopt really outrageous behavior. It's another thing to be really understanding that this is something that can actually happen, that the behavior of your character can actually embrace something because it's absolutely truthful to who they are. So it's not just about being different, but it's also about being truthful. So on one hand, you have this outrageous concept, and on the other hand, it still has to have an element of truth in it in order for it to be believable. So it's not just about doing funny, goofy things. It's really about thinking it through just a little bit and finding out where's the truth of that character? Where's the truth of that person that you've been asked to play? The other question that you want to ask yourself is, what is the fear of playing outside yourself? I mean, what's the worst thing that can happen in an audition? Is that you are so far out there that everyone sort of just doesn't understand or is scratching their head at the silliness of your choices? You know, that doesn't happen. The fear of playing someone outside of yourself is that you are not going to be accepted. But guess what? A lot of outrageous characters aren't accepted. So think about it and make it an intellectual exercise. How far could you go and still be truthful? How far could you go outside of your comfort level and still make an impact on the character you've been asked to play? Now, it's important also to decide and make an active decision that you will not prejudge your choices, that you're making decisions and then you stop yourself, but rather allow as many choices into the preparation as possible. Don't watch yourself making these choices and edit yourself at the same time, which happens all of the time. Actors saying, well, I could go really far with this character, but I'm not sure. And then they start working on the role, and then they start editing themselves. That's denying you some really, I think, some creative potential that might be discovered in the character that you're playing. So be really careful about that self-talk that you get yourself into when you're playing a character or working on playing a character that is so far removed from who you are. Remember, this next thing I think is really useful. Remember that the joy of performance is really important here. Remembering why you want to be an actor in the first place. The joy of performance. The outrageous character has so much fun because of its outrageousness. This can be the most fun you have ever had in a long, long time. So don't edit yourself. Be truthful and just decide that you're going to have a great time. Why did you want to be an actor? You know, performing is an art form. Yes, it's creative. It's all of those things. You're an artist. I get all of that. But sometimes it's just okay to have fun with the outrageous choices that you decide that you're going to play with. Plus, you know what? It can be very spontaneous. Don't edit yourself. Now, moving on from there, keeping it real. You know, we talked about this a little bit earlier about being truthful. It has to come from a truthful place, but hamming it up is not just in and of itself an activity. I'm just going to be goofy for goofy's sake. Keep it real with the definition that you have for the character. How you choose to play the character has to come from a real place. And when you do that, then the choices make a lot of sense. Then the way that you react to the environment or to the situation or to the other characters, that can be very truthful. So the outrageous characters are so much fun to play as long as they come from a real place. Here's another tip I want to give you for playing those outrageous character. It's really simple. Commit, commit, commit. Know what it's like to be totally immersed in the character. the more commitment you bring to playing that character, the less you are watching yourself, the less you are starting to edit the choices that you are making. Be fully committed to that character, have and embrace the joy of performance, and you're going to find that to be a really exciting, fun, and it can be challenging, of course, but boy, can it also be very, very rewarding. And finally, one suggestion I would make to you as you do something outrageous or you're hamming it up for a character is please be careful about being cliche. I would avoid the cliche choices as much as possible. Make choices that are right in your mind for you, not just something that is universally accepted as being outrageous. In other words, don't do it for its own sake. Avoiding cliche is a really good way to keep yourself tethered to the planet, but it's also tethered to your truth, your reality. And avoiding cliche is, I think, a really good piece of advice. Moving on from there, here's another one that I think is really important, and that's not only for the hamming it up or the outrageous characters that you might be playing, but I want you to embrace the uniqueness that is you. When you can bring your unique self into any character that you're asked to play, then you are in a position to make it yours. You are in a situation that says no one else is going to make the choices because I'm making the choices and I am a unique individual with a unique life story, with unique experiences. And so the more that you can embrace that uniqueness that is you, the better off you're going to be and the more interesting and fun to watch. I can 100%. So sometimes the most exaggerated characters that are successful, they come from actors who are basically shy, basically introverted, and very reticent. Ooh, good word. I've always thought that actors that worked to play an outrageous character outside of themselves were more successful because they did not focus on everything about the character, but rather they embraced the effect their uniqueness was able to show within the character. So, the next time you hear someone ask you to ham it up, don't overthink it. Just jump into the real role. I mean, you know what I'm saying, not a literal role. You're not a sandwich. I'm Jeffrey Dreisbach, and this is Casting Actors Cast.
Thank you for joining Casting Actors Cast. Please don't forget to review, like, and share Casting Actors Cast wherever you get your podcast videos. Thanks. I'm Megan Grace Martinez.